Hi, I'm going to tell you about my language arts unit. It's called Folktales, Fairytales, Fables, Oh My, and it's for a second grade classroom. My goal for this unit is for students to learn the elements and characteristics of a fairy tale, to learn the traits of characters, how to identify the moral or lesson of a story, how we can pull out information from illustrations, why illustrations are so important, comparing different versions of the same story, and my students will also be writing their own original version, they're going to write their own fairy tales, and so we'll also learn how to edit and revise papers. And then along with that, I'm giving feedback to various authors. For student relevance and student interest, I thought that this unit would be really great for this age group because they're already so active in their imaginations, and I feel like fairy tales really call their audience to use their imaginations to bring them to a completely different land and a completely different mindset. Students a lot of times at this age imagine about monsters or being a princess or magic. I don't know if I said this, but monsters. And those are all elements of fairy tales, and so I feel like if this is something that they already do while they have their independent playtime or when they're with each other playing, it would be a great way to get them excited to bring that into the classroom and use that. So that's my central focus, and the two lessons that I want to share with you are Reader's Theater and comparing versions of stories. And so the first one is Lesson 5, which is the Reader's Theater lesson. And I'm having my students participate in 3 different stories: The Boy Who Cried Wolf, The Tortoise and the Hare, and You Are Beautiful. And this aligns with Standard 2122, which is recount stories including fables and folktales from diverse cultures and determine their central message, lesson, or moral. And so what I would do with this lesson is I would have students who are comfortable with reading in front of the classroom or are interested in doing that. I would have them come up and pick a part, or I would assign them a part, and then they would have their own independent individual part. And I also had the rest of the class be a part of the Reader's Theater by playing more of a congregational part, and so it would be like a group of villagers or a group of animals that were talking. And then after that I would ask students questions about different events that happened throughout the story, and then how the story ended, and then what that might mean to us and how we could apply that to our lives. And then we would recap and say like, how did we get to this point? Like, how did we know that this is what the author was telling us? And we would practice that 3 times so that they would kind of get in the habit of asking themselves those questions. So then they could also get in the habit of doing that in their own reading, whether it be fairy tales or whether it be another story, another genre. So that's lesson 5. And then lesson 6 is comparing stories from different cultures or just different versions of the same story. And this is standard 2199, and that's compare and contrast 2 or more versions of the same story by different authors or from different cultures, including those by or about Minnesota American Indians. I chose to do different versions of the Cinderella story, and I mostly centered it around different cultures, and so I compiled a list of like 20-ish books from different cultures, and I would pick probably around 5 or 6 of them to have students go over them in small groups. Now I would pick them according to my students in my class, and so if I had a lot of Korean students or a lot of Chinese students or a lot of students from European countries, then I would choose those books to include in the lesson, as well as a few other books from other cultures that may not be represented in the classroom. And so I'd have students fill out a compare and contrast sheet with their small group after they read the story, and I would compare it to the traditional American Cinderella story that a lot of American kids are used to, and so I'd read that in the beginning of the class, the lesson time, and then have them just compare that with the version that they read, and then we would go over it as a class, and I would give them little passports, and I would stamp them for every country that we visited throughout our journey with Cinderella. And that is, well, that's not my whole unit, but that's my presentation on my unit with my 2 lessons that I liked the most. And so I hope that you liked it, and I hope you all have a great summer, and I might see some of you in kindergarten tomorrow. So I hope you have a great day. Bye.